So this video is going to be all about explaining the upcoming DreamHack Atlanta StarCraft 2 tournament format. It's going to be more in-depth than what was in the general Atlanta explainer video, and it's also, I think, most importantly going to include basically, examples. So not real-world ones, fake ones that I came up with, but nonetheless, hopefully something that helps you actually understand the format, which is a great format. It just has a lot of words with it. There's just a lot to describe with it. So trying to put it all in text or into a single graphic image can just sometimes be very difficult to do. So for this what section, I also want to give it a go at explaining the format, because people have tried explaining the format, but there's just so much to it, as you can see here, a lot of text, that it kind of gets lost in the process. But it's actually pretty simple. I think you just got to see it to understand it. So if you did watch Valencia, there was a kind of a preview of that, but it was far less players. So we have a slightly different format, but basically the same, that I'm going to go ahead and mimic a real tournament run. And hopefully then you guys can understand. Let's start off by explaining the first aspect of this tournament, right? Which is that there was a previous tournament before this one. So we had a 3-week-long tournament called what we call regionals, basically, and that is divvying up the world into regions, and then certain places get qualified into the main tournament. So for Europe, top 4 get qualified into the main tournament. Then you have a bunch of other regions that have given you the list of players that you see here from the regionals. Now they get to buy a little bit more time hanging out in Atlanta and preparing, getting over jet lag, because they don't arrive until a later stage in the tournament. Everyone else, they all open signups, people who have been there, they are in Atlanta and they want to play, or are very much expecting to do well in the tournament regardless of their results in their respective regionals, are all here. They bought a ticket, they flew over to Atlanta, and they are ready to go first thing in the morning for group stage number 1. A lot of these names you're going to recognize and certainly expect them to go pretty far, like beyond, but a lot of other names besides that. The first group stage is the start of the tournament. That still is where we're going to start the tournament and start the explanation, because it does start with at least a little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of a twist. Because what really is a twist here for this tournament is the knockout bracket that they have implemented. Now, this is an additional step in the knockout process. So, with that kind of preface there, let's go into the first group stage. 64 players, everyone who signed up because they didn't do well enough in the regionals, are going to get into 16 groups of 4, played in dual tournament, aka GSL style tournament. Best of 3, top 2 players of each group advance to the next stage. Totally understandable. Most of you guys get that. Players who lose group stage 1 get dropped to this pesky little knockout bracket. So what does that mean in a real life example? Let's look at the first group stage. We have the players here, so it's a lot. So let's look at Björn Pili Pili's group. We have Björn Pili Pili, Universe, and Oberoth. Sorry if you're watching this, but I'm gonna knock you guys out. Björn Pili Pili, they win. They're in the green, they win. These guys, same color, same result. They lose, doesn't matter if it's 3rd or 4th, but they both go to the same place, which is the knockout bracket, round 1. Here's where my art degree really comes in handy. So both these guys, Universe and Oberoth, get put in this location, or some location, but they cannot be put up against each other because they were in the same group. That's kind of what you need to know. Let's go ahead and literally populate that bracket with an example. Okay, so I went ahead and just took a bunch of groups and then put them in this bracket just as an example. It's not even the whole bracket, it's actually cut off, but you get the idea. These people lost their first group stage group, whether it was 3rd or 4th, didn't matter. Now they all face each other. So what happens next? Actually very simple. This one still makes a lot of sense. So you notice that they're still connected, is in a single elimination bracket. So Riser beats Zane, Universe beats Genoa, because why not? It doesn't really matter. Then you have them play a best of 3. Let's say that Riser ends up beating Universe. Riser moves on to knockout bracket round 3. We notice that there's no one else to face, right? All of these brackets are individual from each other. So what happens then? Now time to go back to the group stages. While that knockout bracket section was happening, we went into the second group stage with a bunch of the winners, the top 2. So there are 32 players in 8 groups now, playing in that similar tournament format, all best of 3, and the top 2 advance even further, but now we get into maybe even more complicated portion of the knockout bracket. So let's take a look at what happened theoretically with group stage 2. So now this is what group stage 2 looks like. So everyone from some of those initial groups I placed into these just because, you know, whatever, it's easy to appear on screen. So we had top 2 players from every group we put into new groups of all the winners, all combined together, new groups, and then they're going to face each other. What you might notice is already different, however, is that there's slightly different color coding because Wikipedia is pretty smart and does it color coding wise. So these two guys, again, have pretty much the same result if they win. Let's go ahead and just say this is exactly how it went down. Beyond and Creator, both are greenlit. They go into the next group stage, which we'll talk about in a second. Patty Mac and Nina, they're not having such a great time. Nina in particular having a very bad tournament. So what happens to them? Let's go back to the explanation. So Patty Mac and Nina are in the second group stage. They have not done so well, 3rd and 4th place. This is what happens. The person who takes 3rd place, so they did not so great, but not the worst, they get put into the knockout bracket round 4. So they sent down to the single elimination, basically last chance of the tournament. Round 4, however, so that means that they're a little bit farther ahead. So Patty Mac did a little bit better. Patty Mac gets put right here. Let's go ahead and just put him up here, just for the sake of clarity here. Nina, right, did very poorly. Unfortunately, she got 4th. So she gets put down to, might be guessing it, the knockout bracket round 3. So she did the worst, which means that she has to go even farther behind Patty Mac and be put here. Generally, brackets do avoid putting people who are in similar groups in the same exact bracket, but just for the sake of the example. So now Riser has a new opponent, faces Nina. Okay, Nina wins this one, and she's back at it. Now she's facing Patty Mac, again, for the sake of the example. One of these players wins. Let's go with Nina. She's now having one hell of a tournament. Now she's waiting for someone else. Who's that someone? Let's take a look at the next stage. 3rd group stage. This is where things get even a little bit more complicated. Actually, way more complicated. 16 players from the 2nd group stage. So remember, those are the likes of Beyond and Creator, Bunny, Lambo, Special Zound, and Solar Laser, because they're all in the green. They're all moving on to the 3rd group stage. So all of these players won their 2nd group stage, and now they're in this group stage 3 diagram. You might be wondering, why are they in 3rd and 4th? So not yet. Not yet. I haven't actually placed anyone yet. Who are the other 2 people that are joining this group? There's no other people coming from group stage 2? No, because this is where those regional players finally make an appearance. So as I said at the beginning, the regional guys, they were waiting. They get an extra little bit of time to prepare and get used to jet lag. Now they have finally made an appearance. Let's go ahead and slot them into group stage 3. So now I've populated group stage 3, at least 4 groups of it. And again, these are all just examples. So let's say that the top 2 right now are the people who won their regionals, and the bottom 2 are the people who had to go through the grueling process of winning all of their group stages from 1 to 2, and now they're on 3. So what happens in group stage 3? Top 2 advance to the playoffs. Playoffs is a single elimination bracket. But that's not all. This time, the top 2 players also get divvied up. So if you look again, because Wikipedia is so nice, we have different colors, but everyone does continue their journey, no matter the order here. So we have 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th actually mattering, making a big difference. So let's go ahead and jumble it up. Okay, so we jumbled them up, and this is actually how this particular group gets played out, right? So let's focus on this particular group for now. So focusing on this particular group, this is the order, well, it's played out. What happens? Let's read it all first. 1st place, advanced to playoff round 16. 2nd place goes to playoff round 24. 3rd place goes to knockout bracket round 6. 4th place goes to knockout bracket round 5. And this is all in that kind of idea we talked about earlier, which is the better you do, the farther along you get. The worse you do, the farther behind you are. That's what it is. Let's put it in graphical terms. Solar gets 1st. He goes to the round of 16. So he goes to round of 16. What does that mean? Here's the playoffs. Amazing. Solar, round of 16. This is the round of 16. Boom. He gets put there. Creator didn't do as well, but still pretty well. He's going to go into the round of 24. This is the round of 24. The next two players are also different. So Clem did not as bad. I'm going to go to a knockout bracket and put him all the way up here because he did not as bad as Hero, but not that great either. So he is very close to still qualifying to the playoffs. So Clem, KO 6. Hero did the worst, so he gets put a little far behind, KO 5. So he now faces Nina. And whoever wins there, moves on. Whoever wins here, goes into the playoffs. There you go. The winner of each knockout bracket. So the winner was theoretically Clem. Gets put into playoff round of 24, which is here. And that is it for the complicated part. Yeah, hopefully. This then turns into, as expected, a single elimination bracket. So between these two, they win. And let's, for the sake of the example, they're up here. Creator wins, goes on to face Solar. Solar wins, faces the guy that wins here, and so on and so forth, so forth. So hopefully you guys understand this, and that was somewhat helpful and worthy of the time spent on it. The rest of the tournament is simple. Best of 5s in that playoff bracket until the finals, which is a best of 7. So that's it. That's the format. Hopefully you guys do understand, so at least a little bit more of an understanding. Just the general idea is that all of these group stages, top 2 move on in a tournament like you would usually expect them to. If you've ever watched any style of a dual tournament or a GSL, again, style tournament, you would understand that. And then sometimes, depending on if they're first or second, they get farther or less farther in the tournament. And then people who are bottom 2 in that 4-player group get to a knockout bracket, their last chance to survive. And then depending on if they got 3rd or 4th, they go farther or more behind on that knockout bracket and have to have a tougher or easier time getting to the playoffs. Once we're at the playoffs, then it gets way easier. It's just single elimination, best of 5s until the finals are best of 7. So yeah, that's the general gist. We'll definitely be trying to help you guys along on the broadcast as well, emphasizing when people have that second chance, emphasizing when the rank of their placement matters, you know, first, second, third, or fourth, or if it doesn't. So we really do try and emphasize these things because it can get really confusing, especially if you just kind of put the picture there, right? You put it all on you in one hot second, you're not going to be able to digest it all. But in the actual tournament, it makes a lot of sense. If you guys don't think so, then let me know, as well as ESL, so maybe they can give it a go finding a new format. If you think that it's still kind of complicated, but ultimately makes sense and you can see how it works out, then that's kind of the goal anyways. And we, again, emphasize when things are do or die, or what the win or loss means for each player as the casters and desk. That's kind of on us. But yeah, that is it for the video. If you guys liked it, please let me know. If you guys have any further questions, also let me know, and I'll try to get to explaining it in the comments at the very least, if not for, again, improvements on future videos of similar fashion. So like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff for YouTube, and I will see you guys for DreamHack Atlanta.